and therefore he is a false prophet. You're telling me that you can't agree with that?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
So can you agree with that or not?
Why would I be like? Why should I be agreeing with that or not? Like, why do you try to put people in a box? Why would you do that?
Welcome back to Creed's Collision. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Now, in this debate extract, the Muslim speaker came into the conversation with confidence, believing he could convince and possibly convert Godlogic to Islam. But interestingly, he couldn't even get past stage 1 of the argument. Both participants initially agreed on a foundational principle that true prophets are tested and verified by true prophecy. That standard was accepted from the beginning. However, the moment the conversation shifted toward the questionable and failed prophecies attributed to Muhammad, everything changed. The Muslim speaker immediately began to backtrack, redefine the standard, and double talk his original position. And that's the key issue exposed here, the inconsistency. Islamic apologetics often demands strict standards when examining other faiths, especially Christianity, but when those same standards are applied to Muhammad, suddenly exceptions, reinterpretations, and excuses appear. A truth standard that only works one way is not a consistent standard at all. And this debate perfectly highlights that problem. The argument was only acceptable until it began pointing back at Islam itself.
Even though you put me in a box, I try my best, but
I didn't put you in that box. Islam did that to you, bro.
No, okay, well, okay, thank you for that. But the thing is, I thought that you were looking for being converted, not just get small, like simple answers. So that's bringing me up to the opening statement of mine. I told you, even though you can look for any kind of information, religious information in this world, as long as God doesn't want you to become Muslim, you will not. So you said you know Islam. I don't think so. I'm not going to judge you on that.
That's okay.
So that's my statement. If you're happy with your life,
yeah. Do you see how you're not dealing with what I asked?
No, I can deal with that, but I'm not going to just say yes or no. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm sorry for that.
Just to be clear, you mean to tell me
what you just witnessed is a perfect example of inconsistency in Islamic apologetics. Instead of directly answering the question, the Muslim speaker immediately shifted the conversation into emotional and spiritual deflections, right? Saying things like, if God doesn't want you to become Muslim, you won't. But notice what happened. The actual argument was never addressed. Godlogic asked for clear answers, but instead received avoidance, circular reasoning, and vague spiritual claims. And that's the contradiction. Islam presents itself as a religion of clarity and evidence, yet when difficult questions arise about Muhammad or Islamic theology, the discussion often moves away from evidence and into excuses or personal blame. If your position is true, it should be able to withstand direct questioning without changing the subject.
That you said this. You said that a good reason to be a Muslim is because of prophecy, true prophecies that have been fulfilled or that we can see from the prophet. That's a reason why people should be Muslim. That's a good reason to be Muslim, to know that it's true. So that would mean that the opposite is true, that if he gives false prophecies, false predictions, these things would not be from God then, and therefore he is a false prophet. You're telling me that you can't agree with that?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
So can you agree with that or not?
Why would I be like? Why should I be agreeing with that or not? Like, why do you try to put people in a box? Why would you do that?
Do you believe that there are things that are either true or false?
Well, a thing could be true or false. There is no third.
Exactly. So it's either or. True or false? Is a prophet a true prophet? Hold on, Batur.
If you ask me, is red the red?
Excuse me. Is a prophet a true prophet or a false prophet? Is there a middle ground?
No, as long as I know.
So he's either the true prophet or he's either a false prophet, correct?
Yeah, that's it.
Give me a category, give me a criteria of what would make a false prophet.
False prophet will be someone who's trying to fool people.
How? In what way?
Like by giving, like let's say he's making thousands of prophecies and just a couple of them are true. That's it.
Nice. So if he gets prophecies wrong, then he's a false prophet.
No,
right?
you're wrong. If the person,
I'm done. You're wasting my time. You're wasting my time. Please don't request back up again. You're a waste of my time, dude.
Godlogic pressed the Muslim speaker on a very simple principle. How do we identify a true prophet? And at first, both sides agreed that fulfilled prophecy is evidence of divine truth. But once the discussion turned toward the failed prophecies attributed to Muhammad, the Muslim speaker suddenly became evasive and inconsistent. One of the prophecies often discussed is found in Sahih Muslim, where Muhammad reportedly told a young boy that the hour would come before the boy grew very old. Yet that generation passed away over 1,400 years ago, and the final hour did not come. Another example is found in Sahih Al-Bukhari, where Muhammad is reported to have said that the last hour would not come until certain immediate events unfolded within the lifetime of people standing there. Again, centuries have passed, and the implication is serious. According to the Bible, the test of a prophet is not emotional sincerity or partial accuracy, but whether the prophecy actually comes to pass. Scripture states in Deuteronomy 18:22, when a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, if the thing does not happen or come to pass, that is the thing which the Lord has not spoken. The biblical standard is clear. One false prophecy disqualifies a prophet from divine authority. That's why the Muslim speaker struggled in this debate. He agreed with the standard until it was consistently applied to Muhammad himself. Once that happened, the argument shifted from evidence to avoidance. And that exposes the deeper inconsistency, a standard that is only applied to others, but never equally to Islam, is not a consistent standard at all. The conclusion is simple. Truth must be able to withstand examination. If a prophet claims divine authority, his words must align with the standard of truth completely, not selectively. If you enjoyed this analysis, remember to subscribe to Creed's Collision. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Like this video and leave your thoughts in the comments below.
What is that? What are we doing? What a waste of time. Like, do you really wake up and sign up, hop on your computer and think, how can I embarrass myself in front of thousands of people today? Is that what you guys like? Is that what motivates y'all to move? Is that how you like get going? How can I embarrass myself, humiliate myself today? That in a way that if my parents saw this, they would be shaking their head. If my wife or a brother or a sister saw this, they'll be shaking their head. What can I do? I know I'm going to hop on Godlogic's live and I'm going to waste this time. And I'm going to make an argument that a true prophet is one who gives true prophecies. That's a good reason to be a Muslim. And then I'm going to say that a false prophet, well, really, there's no such thing. If you give false prophecies, that doesn't make you a false prophet. Even though I just said what makes you a true prophet is giving true prophecies.